So why don't you use the regular army? What do you need us for?
'Cause some damn fool accused you of being the best.
Dylan! You son of a bitch!
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Skate, and before the video starts, I'd like to say thank you for the support on the channel. It's absolutely meant a lot, and I'm incredibly grateful for all the support on the recent reviews. I've got a ton more coming in the future, so subscribe and stay tuned for those. For full disclosure, I'd also like to thank Zowie for sending out the new EC2 CW, as well as the GSR SE Gree. While these were sent out for review, that will have zero impact on my thoughts or opinions in this video. So starting off with the EC2 CW, I got the medium shape. I got the 2. It goes from a scale of 1 to 3, 1 being the largest, 3 being the smallest. I'd have to say the EC2 CW is definitely a standard ergo shape, very similar to the Death Adder V3 or the Pulsar X Elite. I don't know how to say it, but it's very, very similar. And I have to say it is pretty much 1-to-1 to the original wired EC2. However, I feel like on the new EC2, there's definitely on the left side of the mouse buttons don't stick out as much, and it's definitely a little bit more flush with like the general left side of the mouse, whereas on the original EC2, I feel like there was a little bit more curvature and the mouse buttons stuck out a little bit more. On the top right of the mouse, on the top right of mouse 2, there's a little bit more of like a shoulder and place to rest your ring finger, which is absolutely amazing. One thing I hated with the original EC2 is that my ring finger would sort of like sit on the edge of the mouse button, sort of on the side. I don't even know how to describe it, but it wasn't very consistent. I didn't like it. It didn't feel that good. So I have to say the new change of the extra room to place your fingers is absolutely amazing. So the Zowie EC2 comes in at a fat 77 grams. It is a brick of a mouse. It also uses sort of an outdated PixArt 3370. And it is plug and play, meaning that it is still the famous just 120, 500, 1000 hertz, or it has the 400, 800, 1600, and finally the 3200 DPI. While it sort of sucks that there isn't a software to help with custom mobility, I'd also like to say it is sort of nice to still just plug in a mouse and pretty much be able to use it right away without any issues. I'm definitely really tired of having to download new softwares every single time I get a mouse. One thing that I love about the EC2 shape is actually how it works for pretty much all of my grip styles. I sort of play a mix between fingertip grip as well as this weird hybrid palm, like fingertip claw grip, and then just a general standard palm grip. It feels perfect for all of these grips. And while not everyone, I think, agrees with this shape being ideal, I personally love it. And I'd have to say if I get another wireless EC2 in the future, I'd love to try the EC3, which is their smaller version, just because I'd love to see what a slightly smaller mouse feels. But honestly, the EC2 is sort of perfect for everything, and it is just that middle ground. If you're considering buying this mouse and you're struggling with sizing your hands, Zowie actually has a really good in-depth sizing chart to help you better choose your correct size, and I can definitely recommend using this as it actually helped me when choosing which product to be sent out. So talking about mouse buttons, I'm pretty sure these are just standard mechanical switches. There's absolutely no pre-travel. There is, however, a little bit of post, but it's nothing too noticeable. They're extremely tactile and they're super firm, absolutely zero side to side. It's just very solid standard mouse buttons from Zowie. So talking about the side buttons are still very loud, tactile. I'm pretty sure they're using mechanical switches still. And honestly, there isn't that much pre-travel, but there's definitely a good amount of post. I'm pretty sure my Mouse 5 has a lot more post than my M4, but honestly, it's not too bad. It's not noticeable in game, but it is just sort of nitpicking. So talking about the scroll wheel of the mouse, the scroll wheel is still that standard, terrible Zowie scroll wheel. I personally hate the loud scroll wheel. I think it's clunky, outdated, and while it's like definitely very firm and like you know when you're gonna scroll, I don't know, I feel like there are other ways to implement this type of I guess resistance without it being this loud and, I don't know, just sort of uncomfortable to use. I think it needs to be lightened and a lot easier to use, but that's just my personal preference. I know a lot of people still love the Zowie scroll wheel, and honestly, if you like it, continue to use it, but for me, it's just sort of not my thing. The weight balance in this mouse is actually pretty good. For it being 77 grams, it feels extremely solid. There's nothing too noticeable. I'd say it definitely is sort of comparable to Razer's weight balance, but I definitely still think that Razer still has the advantage when it comes to, I guess, in-hand feel. I feel like the mouse is a little bit more, I guess, like bottom heavy, whereas like it's definitely very noticeable, but with Razer, I feel like the weight is pretty shared throughout the mouse. So another thing to talk about with this mouse is actually the sensor. I feel like the sensor is a little bit low on the mouse. If I grip the mouse normally, I feel like the sensor is a little bit low in comparison to where my thumb is. I'd like for it to be a little bit higher, but honestly, it's just sort of a preference thing. I feel like mice respond a whole lot better when they have a just slightly higher sensor positioning, sort of in line to where I place my thumb. Which is why I'm actually really excited to hopefully try out the new Razer Viper V3 in the future, but that's sort of besides the point. I feel like the sensor sits a little bit low. And finally, this comes as no surprise to anyone that knows Zowie products, but the stock skates are terrible. Do not use them. Just take it off immediately. There's just no point that you should be using them. They're rough. They're sort of terrible to use. I always recommend aftermarket skates. Right now, I currently have the Xfinity Jades on my mouse, and it feels incredible, super fast, and you know, zero resistance in comparison to the old stock skates that just, I don't know, feel gross, muddy, and slow to use. Another really important thing about this mouse is Zowie's enhanced receiver. So this mouse only has 1K polling, and it comes with a standard USB dongle, and it also comes with this enhanced receiver. This is what you use to charge the mouse, and which is why at the bottom of the mouse the major skate at the top is broken up into two separate ones. For me, this is not that big of a deal, but it's just something to mention. I feel like having the wireless receiver with the release of Zowie's wireless mice is just sort of their excuse for not having 4K. The enhanced receiver is meant to negate interference from other wireless connections, but honestly, I've never had any sort of issue in the past. While I will say I do feel a little bit better with the enhanced receiver versus the standard 1K dongle, it could be completely placebo and probably doesn't make that much of a difference. It does feel better to use in game with the enhanced receiver, so I guess that is a bonus. When it comes to polling rate with gaming mice, I just don't understand why Zowie is not releasing 4K with these mice. I definitely think Zowie is behind the standard when it comes to having higher polling rates, either 2K, 4K, or 8K, especially when there are other companies that are implementing 4K into their products for much cheaper. Even if it's a separately sold dongle, I definitely think Zowie needs to sort of step up their game and play catch up. I really hope that the next series of wireless mice comes with 4K, or at least the ability to use 4K in the future, because as of right now, I don't know, I can't really justify the extreme price for only 1K hertz. Speaking of the price, this mouse comes in at $150, which is definitely kind of steep in today's current mouse market. It is sort of pushing the budget, especially in comparison to other companies like Vaxi and the release of the MP01S, which is $30 cheaper, 1K, and has been a very big competitor in comparison to the wireless EC2. I definitely think that $150 is asking for a lot, especially when it doesn't have 4K. I understand that there are other companies such as Razer which sell mice at a similar price, but at least with Razer you can buy it an extra dongle and unlock that 4K polling. For $150, I really hope that Zowie does give us the opportunity to apply 4K polling to the EC2 or any of their new mice in the future. I definitely think it's an area where Zowie's lacking. and honestly knocks them down a couple points in my books. I have to say though, if you want the wireless Zowie experience without having to mod or buy a modded mouse yourself, it's pretty good. I think if you want less of a brick with a better scroll wheel and side buttons, I definitely think there are other companies where you can get a similar build quality for cheaper. However, one thing that I will say about Zowie is that it is super cool that they offer refurbished units for $120. If you don't mind that it's been refurbished and previously owned or whatever, you should definitely go with that instead. In my opinion, the EC2CW is a really high quality mouse and has been a joy to play with recently, but I definitely don't think it's worth the full $150. I definitely think getting a refurbished unit at $120 would be a much smarter play if you're interested in buying this mouse. So wrapping up the EC2 review, if you really want a $150 brick of a mouse that only has 1K polling and you really want the Zowie experience, absolutely go for the EC2CW. It's a really quality mouse, it works for the games that I'm playing, and honestly, it actually has been a lot of fun to play with. As much as I've been sort of dogging on Zowie, it is really nice to see them enter the wireless gaming space, but I feel like all the other mice series need to be released in order for Zowie to sort of catch up with the rest of the market. I definitely think the lack of variety as well as the lack of 4K is definitely holding them back a lot. For releasing their first wireless mouse, I think Zowie did a fantastic job. I just think there's a lot more that Zowie has to do in order to sort of catch up where the wireless market is today. So, talking about the GSR SE Gree, the price of the pad is $35 before shipping, and honestly, for $35, the price is really good because you're still getting a very premium product without pushing $50+ for a pad like the LGG pads or even an artisan pad, which can push $70+ So the GSR SE Gree comes in at 470 by 390 millimeters with a 3.5 millimeter thickness. Honestly, I think the size is a little bit small, especially in the height compared to some of the other pads in the space. However, one really important thing to remember is that this is pretty much just a new colorway of an already existing pad, which has been in the space for a long time. So I'm not totally surprised that Zowie hasn't updated their size, but it's just something to sort of be aware of. So the base of the pad is a high density rubber base. It is not pour on. Sorry to break it to you guys. Zowie claims the thickness of the GSR SE to be the right degree of softness. I'd have to say, if I was to compare it to the feeling of an artisan pad, I definitely have to say it'd be like a soft. It's definitely not squishy by any means, but there is the ability to push down in the pad with the mouse if you want that extra stopping power. Another thing that I want to mention with this pad is that if you move your mouse in a circle, the pad will move with you. Otherwise, pad does not move on your desk at all. It is absolutely perfect, but that is just one thing to be aware of, is if you're spinning your mouse in a circle for a tracking game or like Osu or something, you're going to find that this mouse pad moves with you and that you'll have to reset it every once in a while. So talking about the speed of the GSR SE Gree, Zowie advertises this pad to be faster than the GSR 1 and 2, but slower than the GTFX. And I can definitely say this is the case. This feels like a little bit of a more controlled hybrid pad, making it perfect for TAC FPS games like VALORANT and CS2. And I also have used it for games like Overwatch and Apex, and I can confidently say that it works really well. It is a fantastic service, and you can play any game that you want on it. One thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the speed and the performance of this mousepad is that it is heavily impacted by the skates that you use. It will elevate the gaming experience, and so that's one thing that I really want to recommend with this mousepad, is getting a really solid pair of aftermarket skates on it. So when it comes to the changes and improvements of this mousepad, there isn't anything too new or anything too noticeable, to be honest, outside that it is a brand new gray colorway in comparison to the original GSR SE Rouge. One thing that Zowie says that they've improved with this pad is that they have enhanced their humidity resistance. They advertise that liquids won't sit on the top layer anymore. However, now they'll be absorbed into the lower layers of the pad much faster and better than previous Zowie products. And I've actually heard it's better than the OG Rouge. So if humidity is a big thing for you, as it is for me, I can definitely recommend this mouse pad. I have found myself not being impacted as much as other cloth mouse pads when it's super hot out and it's super humid and there's moisture on my pad. Other pads get slower, feel terrible. I will have to say the GSR SE has not felt that way for me. One thing that I can't really speak on yet is Zowie's claim to have improved the durability of the GSR SE. I don't exactly know if this just means the entire lifespan of the mouse pad or it getting less dirty, not as quickly. I'm not exactly sure, and I can't really speak on it yet. However, in the future, I will definitely be posting on Twitter about it and sort of sharing my thoughts and opinions as I use this mouse pad more. So my takeaways for the GSR SE Gree is that it is another consistent Zowie product. I feel like it is a bit small and thick by today's standards, but it's definitely not a downside in my opinion. The pad is still absolutely usable and it is still perfect. You know, you just may have to be picking up your hand or arm a little bit more to adjust to the slightly smaller size, but honestly, it shouldn't really be a downside in my opinion. When it comes to the new GSR SE Gree, there's nothing that new or changed in comparison to the GSR SE Rouge, but I just feel like Zowie just improved and enhanced on a couple key qualities that were a little lacking in the previous pad, but honestly, fantastic. Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.